Thank you so much. Oh, yes, it has taken me a while to try and compose this because, as mentioned when we very first started, there's an awful lot you could say about Richard. I could tell you about the time he attended the networking meeting with us skiing down a hill at the same time, but I'm not going to mention that now. But that's the only networking meeting I've ever been to where somebody has skied and networked all at the same time. So here we go. We've had two amazing speakers already, and I'm just about to introduce a third, and what a privilege it is for me. And it is impossible to say just a few words about Richard Scott. So I thought I'd start by sharing a little bit of his bio. So Richard is the child of a British ex-serviceman and an exiled Eastern European in the midst of the Cold War. I've lost my train of thought. Yes, Richard, let me start again. Richard, a child of a British ex-serviceman and an exiled Eastern European in the midst of the Cold War, certainly had the right foundations to become an international spy. However, far too keen to share any secrets he learned, that career was never a viable option. So after a 3-decade sea-level career, he parachuted to international organizations like HSBC, Adidas, as some of you might call it, Siemens and Formula One. A 2-year study on work-life balance led to discovering a universal formula for effective work-life balance for anyone. We all want the perfect work-life balance, don't we? Seeking life on own terms, acronym LOOT, he now runs 3 amazing businesses, one just for fun. He has a fabulous new podcast of the same name. He writes and he enjoys supporting worthwhile causes. So it's no surprise, of course, that his talk today is all about LOOT, or life on own terms, with 7 practical steps guaranteed. Rarely seen without a dog when he comes to our meetings, which attendees love. It's where's the handsome guy with the cute dog, or where's the cute guy with the handsome dog, whichever way it is. He has a heart of gold and a commitment to make a difference in the world. He is the one and only. We love him, Richard Scott. Richard, over to you.
Thank you. How can I follow that introduction? That's absolutely lovely. Right, hope you can all sort of see my little slide behind me. There we go. First of all, a special thanks to Steve and Jen for inviting me to be here today. And also, I've absolutely loved the two days that have been of the event so far and the great talks this morning already. So good morning, good evening, wherever you are. And I've heard that this part of the event is amazing. Yep. Give me a quick show of hands if you've heard that too. Oh, okay, in the gallery, everybody's looking, going to go, is this guy serious? What's going on? What's everybody else doing? Yes, I'm just joking. Don't mind me. I love presenting on Zoom, and I also love the mute button. It helps to keep hackers at bay, hecklers even at bay, but feel free to heckle in the chat window. Yes, please do, as it keeps it buzzing with a bit of fun and engagement. I just love it when I'm actually on stage and somebody kind of goes, woo, yep, and then they immediately regret it. You ever been there? And it's really funny when they actually start looking behind them, kind of going, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. So that's why the mute comes in very, very handy. That really does crack me up. So anyway, I thought it wise to sort of introduce that, sort of start with some of these. Oops, there we go. Technical issues, there we are, perfect. Heckle, and yep, there we go. So can you guess what these are, by the way? Yep, hence the reason it's spotlighted so you can see it a little bit better. Any guesses in the chat? Oh, nope, not getting any yet. They're ground rules. There you go. Okay, it's great fun to watch the gallery of everyone because you get to see how the reactions vary. And it can also be a very, very big distraction when you see somebody taking a drink of tea or coffee and they laugh and it comes out their nose or something. And I never know whether to stop or just check that they're actually all right. So I try not to be fazed by it, but for health and safety reasons, I just will try my hardest not to be too funny. There we go. Could you imagine, though, being on Zoom and there being actually a genuine emergency? I mean, what would we do, especially if we didn't know who they were, where they lived, to be able to help them? Would you have to just sort of stop and ask everybody to sort of bow their heads and ceremoniously turn off the video? I certainly hope not. So what would you do in an emergency? Often we don't think of these things until somebody says it, and then we can't forget it. And I'm hoping, just like this talk, we've got lots of good stuff to cover. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Okay, speaking of a ride, just to set things straight, there are exits here, here, and over here. And in the event of masks falling from your ceiling, it may reveal that you have some unusual fetishes. But in that event, please don't put on your mask in front of others. In the event that your sugar levels begin to crash, please check your braces are in position and instead take the corrective action to help stay focused. And finally, do not put on your life jacket while you're inside the house unless you have a pool and you sleepwalk. Now, take a long, slow, deep breath and try to kick back while remaining in the upright position. Most of my friends call me rich, but my life started rather poor. In my 20s, I was working 3 jobs, including a 6-figure one, owning and renting 2 houses, also buying, refurbishing, and selling technology. And I became relatively rich compared to some. And as a consultant to the board of lots of well-known companies, I did all right, but I never really got to appreciate it though, always under stress, having to work, and someone else was busy spending the money for me. So after losing it all, instead of trying to focus on gaining it all again and squandering it again, instead I focused on what I realized was far more important, to have life on own terms. So I took the last 10 years to truly do what I could to get to where I needed before I turned 50. Yes, 50, I hear you saying, you don't look 50. Oh, yeah, who said 60? Sorry, who was that? Right, okay, thanks for that. Yes, it's true. I actually turned 50 last month. And for a bit of fun, who wants to know my secret? Okay, I'm going to take that as a yes. So it takes lots of muscles, as we know, to frown. Far more than to smile. Yep. But my secret's very few lines on my face without surgery is simply not understanding half of what's going on around me. So there you go. And before we actually start with our 7 steps to loot, can I just say that you guys are truly the best audience that I've had today. Yep. Okay, this first step is the biggest and most rewarding. It's going to take the longest of all of the steps, but I'm sure you'll find it worthwhile. Okay, so let me tell you a story. A little bit of a theme there, isn't there? In 2009, I embarked on what soon some saw as a boondoggle. Working hard for one of my clients, I learned the results of an internal survey about happiness in the workplace. Some people had a great work-life balance and others did not. So I wanted to see if there was a universal formula for establishing and maintaining a healthy work-life balance. And so with the help of many contributors at HSBC, as well as others from Accenture, KPMG, and PwC, I began interviewing tens, which later turned into hundreds of people to gather some amazing results, and certainly far from a boondoggle. I soon discovered that there was actually a formula with lots of ingredients that made an amazing difference. There were many startling discoveries too, with some very obvious ones. People seemed to be either having it right or they didn't. The best people were surprisingly 2/3 reactive and only 1/3 proactive, with the reactiveness actually giving them a happy purpose. They were motivated by a combination of both towards and away from strategies, and they had a very strong towards within them. They were all very good at finding multiple paths with great imagination and mental flexibility, constructing mental imagery of waypoints along the route. They had great coping strategies to quickly re-establish themselves during a wobble when the balance was disturbed. They had clear through time spatial separation of past, present, and future. And the best people generally gave the clearest definitions and were articulate about what they wanted. Those with the best results had a balance of tasks on their to-do lists that were actually 40% delegated and 60% vision or goal oriented. They could keep a level head by easily stepping back and dissociating, yet remaining very, very human. They accepted responsibility, but only when the benefit was clear. They'd work hard, play hard, and almost always in that order, with a clear line between life and play, rarely mixing the two. This helped them create trust with their bosses, and they often were more recognized and rewarded for it, even if they rarely set foot in the office. Behind every good person were understanding and supportive partners. And interestingly, they didn't hold grudges even with themselves. And so that is also an important one. They were generally able to be extroverted on demand in their behavior, even if they were actually introverts, and yet generally could recharge anywhere. And I love this, that they were all very much that they loved challenges. But by contrast, the ones who had it wrong seemed to break lots of these rules. Some were too proactive, often too committed to this single future with no room for maneuvering, leaving them feeling quite demotivated. They didn't know when to say no, taking on other people's urgencies as their emergencies, often far too away from in their strategies. They focused on what they didn't want and spoke quite commonly in negatives. They also seemed to take a lot of things personally and blamed themselves and others, perhaps too associated with the negatives of life. And in between the work and the life was a blurred line with this perception of past, present, and future somewhere. The two key ingredients, though, that stood out to make or break having a healthy work-life balance. If you're interested and you want the replay, speak to Steve and Jen, and they will let you know how to get it. And trust me, it's worth it for that alone, because this is the sort of thing that can take you hours to digest. And there's truly lots of great VIP bonuses too, just like a brass band with no strings. And I've already mentioned these two key ingredients. Without them, you've got no chance. The first one, like yin and yang, oil and water, is about keeping the two worlds of work and play separate. And the better you can, the more you can focus. Let's face it, our brains are always on. Well, at least I hope they are. I might be the exception, but I hope that they're always on. But compartmentalization is key. And being able to split those worlds really makes the difference. Because it sends a clear message, doesn't it, to others, and even to ourselves as to when we're on and off duty. So maybe we should call it work-play balance. How's that? And the second essential ingredient, as I've already mentioned, is to have a supportive partner or boss. If co-workers don't trust you, you'll feel pressures to prove yourself, and you're going to often feel disillusioned. And similarly, if your partner isn't supportive of your need to focus, your ability to be productive at home is likely to be heavily impaired. Back in 2010, there was a big focus on presenteeism. In the last decade or so, it's got easier and more companies are more supportive. After all, just because somebody's there in body doesn't mean that they're there in mind, making them potentially ineffective if they're actually a distraction to others. I mean, now that we're more accepting that we can work remotely and people should be judged on results, it's changing the world as we know it. And if you can't be judged on results, if you can't actually live like that, maybe it's time to reassess your work. And if your home doesn't support you being at work or being able to work even, it maybe it's time to set certain boundaries. And if they're not honored, maybe find somewhere else to work from. And remember, we all have wobbles, and there's always a storm somewhere on the horizon. It's how we recover from them that's important, especially if we want to have an improved work-play balance and work-life effectiveness. It's essential to getting life on own terms. So in the chat, if you want to, was that so far useful? As I said, that's the biggest one so far in understanding there's a formula to work-life balance. And now we'll hop on to point number 2. Do what you love. As a toddler, I wanted life on my own terms, just like every toddler before me. At 18 months old, I got into a habit of throwing a major temper tantrum, yes me, when I held my breath and went bright red, almost purple, with my veins in my forehead looking like they were about to go. Boop. My parents were so worried that it caused that I was going to cause myself permanent damage that he took me to the doctors. Well, maybe it did. But after being given a once-over in the middle of this temper tantrum, in the middle of the surgery, the doctor gave me an immediate prescription of a short, sharp smack on the bottom, forcing me to take a whole deep breath, mostly in shock. It got me breathing again instantly. Cured. Yep. Not sure that that'd be allowed today for lots and lots of reasons. But in that moment, I learned that just how, I couldn't just demand having life on my own terms simply by holding my breath and basically being a prize fronk. So life on own terms means something far more than just being a spoiled brat. And with a quick show of hands, if you please, and a chat in the box, who here likes or even loves themselves? Yay, lots of waves of hands, fantastic. I look back at the various me's over the last 50 years, and mostly I cringe. Yep, it took a lot of evolution to actually become somebody that I liked. Yep, even as recent as 10 years ago, I'd look in the mirror and I didn't really care for what I saw. Yep, it sounds a bit egotistic in my opinion to claim to really love myself. But with life on my own terms, I don't look in the mirror and sort of feel what I did before. Instead, I see the differences that I'm making in helping the world, and I feel really proud of that. Remember, if we like ourselves, it's far more confidently possible to market ourselves to. Because you try promoting a product that you don't really like. So keep the chat going. Let's see lots and lots and lots of action in there. Who here is doing what they love? Put a Y in the chat, as in the letter Y, not the word why. And for the next definition, battle gab. What a great word. As a member of the CAA, the Campaign Against Acronyms, I'd like to try to see if I can avoid any battle gabs. Give me a quick show of hands, or better still, little chat in the box. Who loves admin? Yes, I'm glad that you got that one, Mike. It's always funny that when I sort of say that at different events, the number of people that start writing it down, CAA, Campaign Against Acronyms, especially when I've got the sign saying join ASAP. And so I'm getting some no ways on the not liking the admin, right? So no one loves admin unless admin is your actual business. Yep. What a surprise. I mean, does admin make the business, or does it put a strain on your ability to do the business? Go on, put make or strain in the chat. Go on, let's get it going. For admin owners who want life on own terms, for business owners even who want life on own terms, admin's not really at the top of the list, is it, for how you want to spend your day? Yeah, let's be honest about it. Who wants to do that admin? Who wants to firefight? Who wants to have more on their to-do list than they do already? Yep, one of the main reasons we feel overwhelmed running a business is that we're not aware that we're often actually running 3 businesses. But don't panic, it will all make sense what I'm saying, because once you realize it, it'll become easier and help you to get loot, hopefully in both ways of that meaning. Any business in history that has ever failed, and I mean any business, feel free to challenge me on this, that has ever failed in history has done so by neglecting one of these 3 businesses. No other reason, these 3 businesses. The first business is what I call the short-term business. That's the pressured one. That's the lifeblood of any business where you're trying to get cash in any way you can to keep the lights on. You sell stuff, you borrow, second jobs, loans, grants, inheritance, rubber bank. Okay, maybe not rubber bank. Yep. But would do whatever it takes, even if it's not necessarily connected to the main business. It's about getting that money through the door. It could be why working at McDonald's to pay for developers to create a mobile app that will tell people where the milkshake machines are actually working. It could be by somebody working at a furniture store who's trying to build a social media audience for comedy sketches that they write about the people that they actually meet, the different types. But it's whatever you need to do to stay afloat. This is why people say that cash flow is king. Neglect it and your king dies. Probably not the best topic to talk about this week, but we'll move on. The midterm business, the boring one. This is the second business, and it's very much the one that's all about the rinse and repeat business for products and services with the potential to sell. That process-driven fixed product and service business that can be de-skilled and automated into a glorified production line, making you cost-effective, making you more reliable, making you cheaper, making you quicker than the competition. Neglect it and someone else will do that instead. The midterm business can't cope well with change, but it does what it does really well in order to help to become scalable and repeatable with ease. Just remember that the answer is not technology alone. Technology is a magnifier. It can magnify your business, but it will also magnify all of your problems too if you don't apply it correctly. The same goes for things like ChatGPT or other emerging technologies. It's not the tool, it's what you do with it. Yeah, no comments on that, please. Then we also have the long-term business. That's the dream one. That's often the one that we think of when we start a business. Oh, this is where I want to be. This is how I'm going to change the world. And it's all about new ventures and new adventures, new products, new partnerships, new opportunities on the horizon. It's about evolution by being ahead of the wave. Neglect it and you'll be overtaken and made extinct like the dinosaurs. All businesses in history that have ever failed have done so by neglecting just one or more of those three businesses. And if you look after them well, you're actually guaranteed to succeed. So give me a heck yeah in the chat if that resonates. And you can suddenly see what's been holding you back. Purely by chance, nearly 4 years ago, I was asked to pet sit to help someone out. I said, yeah, thinking it would give me time to focus on my other businesses, my other activities, to write, to reflect. I didn't actually do it to start a business. I mean, it paid about £60 for 24 hours. It's like $75. Not exactly life-changing sums, but it allowed me to use somebody else's home as my office without distraction. And only about 2 hours of work a day looking after the pets that I had there. And the rest of the time, I could progress my actual main business. Earning a few pounds allowed me to pay those essential bills, and it became my short-term business to help to support all else I was doing. And by providing this seemingly amazing service with peace of mind, my reputation grew. And suddenly I'd expanded it into a professional sitting agency and earning from each sit that I arranged. But this side hustle was becoming so popular that I found myself with a full-time admin role, earning comparatively little compared to the work that I'd had to put in. It really wasn't worthwhile. But did I pack it in when so many others would? No, because I saw the potential. I reinvested everything that came in, streamlined my operations and de-skilled all admin, developed supporting tools and introduced CRM Raptor for the automation, which is fantastic. And now I'm packaging this scheduling solution with 4 customers already lined up in different sectors, including a couple of large corporates, in addition to using it for myself. And they want to actually buy it off me. They want to actually enjoy and benefit from that scheduling solution. And that has become my midterm business, that streamlined, automated way of trying to handle all of those inquiries, scheduling, and all of the sits. It'll soon basically start to scale, and that is very much the plan, to almost unlimited proportions across the whole world, with an amazing growing workforce of dedicated, skilled professionals, really lovely ones too, working as sitters of dogs, cats, sheep, chickens, even alpacas, who are happy to be able to assist me with my other ventures. By the way, just to clarify, I mean the sitters helping me, not the alpacas. My long-term business was all about that future and talk about creating your own pond to swim in, woof, woof, and helping others out to get life on their own terms. After all, how else could I get to go to a wedding as a dog's plus one or enjoy surreal moments like these? I just had to. I mean, dining with a dog who was served a fine selection of rare beef cubes, gently warmed on a risotto-esque base of pre-soaked kibble. That was a menu I never thought I would see. So, do you do what you love? And next, we're on to step number 4, the one that I know will change your approach to your business. And if your brain isn't already exploding with just how much goodness and yumminess is packed into this amazing talk, well, fantastic. Thank you for keeping along with me. Okay, MYPCT TVSR. Okay, that's not exactly what you call the catchiest acronym, is it? Right? No, it's hardly a compelling sounding product by calling it that. So make your product so compelling that they can virtually sell themselves is what it stands for. Give me a show of hands who wants to. MYPSCTTVST. Oh, I'm getting a couple of waves. Fantastic. I was expecting, oh, fantastic. Oh, we can do this in synchrony. There we are. I was expecting to see everybody's show of hands. I'm loving it. Thank you. And if your products aren't so compelling that they virtually sell themselves, then you'll be spending your time, effort, and money in compensating for them not being compelling enough. I use this word above to describe products and services too. If your products are that hot. So how do you make what you do so compelling that they virtually sell themselves? Sounds like a bit of a tall order, but there is actually a formula for that one too. No, I'm not here to promote Procubate's incredible one-day workshops, taking someone's products and services and extracting the pure gold and passing it to become priceless. Oh, well, maybe I am. But really compelling products become no-brainers that virtually sell themselves. So let's give you some real-world examples. Imagine a nice, enjoyable, stress-free and uplifting start to the week. Imagine a 60 to 90 minutes online meeting, getting to meet other business owners all focused on giving. No selling to the room, great guests, games, good conversations, and giving. Imagine a bunch of like-minded people looking for ways to prove how well they can help one another. Imagine that each week we support a worthwhile cause that attendees vote on, where you know exactly how the money will be translated into real impacts, such as saving 3 penguins or teaching 5 farmers to keep bees or feeding 15 families for a month or providing sanitary pads to hundreds of women or pumping thousands of tons of drinking fresh water to remote villages or providing tens of thousands of vitamins and antibiotics and medical supplies to children, to name just a few of the measurable benefit that Networking for Good members have made. Although I'm still waiting on the penguins. In fact, over the 3 years, Networking for Good, NFG, has made nearly 500,000 measured impacts. How's that for a great community of giving people? Who doesn't want to be associated with that? And there were no barns burned in the making of this slide. Procubate's Smart Inspiration range of one-day workshops, the done with you one-day workshops, where you get asked all the right questions at the right time to give you the results you need, not the ones you are led to believe by someone who doesn't know your business claims that you want. Like a website in a day, including a launched, live, professional, active website of your design for just $750, including a year's hosting too. That's just one of the one-day workshops that they offer. And a yellow brick road to business success with many great partners to meet along the way, such as on-hand experts, coaches and designers and technical specialists, and even risk-reward marketing authorities who guarantee getting you results. Who doesn't want that? And Aurora, which is a social enterprise offering a range of initiatives to improve and save lives. One such initiatives are the Aurora Smart Tags, designed to save lives. If you were involved in an accident and unable to speak, whether in shock, unconscious, or simply incoherent, how would someone know how to help you? How would they know who to contact? How would they know what medication you might need? How much or how often? How would they know where they were to tell the emergency services? Now imagine A very, very cost-effective, no subscription wristband, key fob, badge, button, or smart tag, so on tag that could be tapped by a smartphone, and all those details would appear as if by magic, even with a photograph to help prove identity. Imagine how many lives could be saved by that, whether your own or loved ones, partners, children, elderly parents, or even pets. Who doesn't want that right now? Well, I'm not one to tease, so we've actually given you two in the form of two life-saving QR smart tags just for being here. So use them for yourself or give them to people that you love to print off and laminate, put them in the back of your phone, put them in your wallet, your purse, even put them on the car sun visor or on the fridge. They're yours to keep, no catch, no restrictions, no strings. Please use them because it could potentially be the thing that saves your life. So I've introduced you there to three products that I've helped to create. And having compelling products is essential to help guarantee a business's success. And Procubate has even a formula for that too. But obviously, it requires businesses to listen, to reflect, be open, and to together take the right action. And the biggest secret is to leave egos well and truly at the door. And that journey would otherwise be a lot longer and a lot harder, having to drag those big old heavy things, wouldn't it? And now we're on to step number 5, one of my favorites and one of the funniest. And if you're not looking at the slides, this is the time to make sure you're on it. If you want a better life, believe in clarity. Bumfuzzle. What a great word. Sounds very British, doesn't it? Yes, indeed. But let's hope we're not too divided by our common language. Where it comes to ambiguities, I believe in the work of MOSTO. MOSTO, the Ministry of Stating the Obvious. There's ambiguities everywhere. In what we say, what others say, in even what we think. So tell me, is that a duck on the left and a rabbit on the right? Here's some headlines to read that I hope you will enjoy. Dad loves cooking, kids, and pets. Punctuation can make the difference between a personal introduction and a confession. It comes down to grammar. Speaking of grammar, I still think that turkey would have been a better option. That's one method for encouraging population reduction, I guess. Hold up. A bit extreme, I think. Oh, speaking of hold up, I saw this headline once. 3 armed men rob bank. Well, maybe if they've got 3 arms, maybe they're just so desperate for the money to pay for the surgery. I mean, during COVID, let's face it, if you went into a bank without a mask on, everybody panicked. And 7-foot doctors save hospital. Very tall doctors or podiatrists. Include kids when making nutritious snacks. Well, I'm just not sure I could eat a whole one. I saw her duck, which is no euphemisms intended, or are they? Soldier shot man with gun. Is that 1 gun or 2? It becomes ambiguous. Factory workers refuse to work after death. God. I saw them who were dying to retire. What can I say? I can potentially see their point. And one of my favorites. Panda mating fails, vet takes over. Talk about dedication. So from dedication to delegation, on to step number 6. Before that you say you can't afford it, maybe you can't afford not to. But as we saw in a talk yesterday, sometimes it's not about how much you pay for something. It's about other ways that may exist. Because it's funny when people say in real life, and what's the alternative? Yep. I think that energy exchanges are often the answer. Because what are you quick at? What are you slow at? Swap what you're willing to offer or quickly do for somebody else with what they could quickly do for you. And the energy exchange potentially could include swapping some of your admin too. It may be that you're a 2-person energy exchange, it might be 3, it might be 4. But I wouldn't go for too much more than that because it can then become a bit too complex. But it's great if you can get an energy exchange in place to make your business simpler. And step number 7. Sure, I've said I'll try to do this or that, I'll do my best, and haven't always been able to, but I only ever actually promise, and I mean promise, when I can categorically know that nothing can get in the way of me honoring that promise. And in my adult life, I'm quite proud to say I've never made an actual promise that I haven't kept, because I never make promises lightly. And make promises to yourself that you know you can keep. Be a person of your own word, because if you can't keep promises to yourself, I'll leave you to finish that sentence. And if you look in the mirror and you don't like some of what you see, then it's time to change, and hope that I've given you some ideas. Because life on your own terms is about pulling all of your energy into one face and being yourself, and living with sincerity, congruity, honesty, and integrity. And who doesn't want that? And now we're coming towards the end of the presentation. I was going to say performance there. And with a bit of a gentle summary on the 7 steps. Before we do that, I've got to say, I'm really glad that life isn't about the destination, because, well, potentially my life's destination is going to be my funeral and being buried 6 foot under to slowly decay. But death is something I'd much rather avoid, no matter how much it might help me to lose weight. So there's the 7 points. And so hopefully they will all make sense and resonate. Here's another little word for you. Octothorpe. The name has been around for centuries. It's not compelling. Hashtag, that's the name we all know and use without hesitation. And so give a quick show of hands who has actually learned something that they can and will put into practice in their own lives today. Because if you're willing, put what resonates in the chat too. Other than your 2 Aurora QR smart tags, one for yourself and one for someone else that you care about, which could save yours or their life, I want you to really take something away from this too, and help change all lives for the better. If I can help make a difference to someone registering, if something's registered that I've said, then it's a great start. So some of you may also know that I'm launching a podcast, Life on Own Terms, exactly as Jenny said, interviewing people with some truly amazing stories of how they've found life on their own terms. Who doesn't want to know that? And so keep an eye on the Octothorpe hashtag loot as I work to make it synonymous with life on own terms. And please do subscribe and follow as we launch this. And almost finally, as a big thank you for being here, as I've mentioned, I'm giving you a product with the potential to save lives. We'd love some 5-star reviews and testimonials if anybody is able. Getting 5-star reviews and testimonials are one of the best ways for a business to be put on the map, and it could also help to save others too. And thank you for being here. It is the end, or is it just a new beginning? Over to you, Jenny. Thank you.
What on earth do you expect me to say after that? I'm still digesting it. Wow. I mean, gosh, yeah.
Well, there's a good reason to get the VIP upgrade, isn't it? Just to digest all of that again and again and again.
Yeah, exactly.
Although you might have to put up with my terrible jokes.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, but as Wendy says, follow that. I mean, that was just a mine of amazing information, and I'm hoping that has sort of resonated with people, that life is a privilege, for all of us. The every day that we are here is a privilege. And are we living life on our own terms? Are we going round and round on a hamster wheel? And are there so many things that we want to do, whether it's with our work, whether it's something we want to speak about? Even if we just take one step to live more life on our own terms. And I hope that has inspired somebody, somebody here to make a change, just a small tweak to make things a little more as they would really like it to be. So what's a good starting point, Richard? Is it just making a small change and it goes from there?
I would say the starting point, the best way for the starting point is to look at the actual work-play balance, that work-life effectiveness. and actually go, am I following that formula, or am I tripping over my own feet? Because too often we go, yeah, and we're stuck in that hamster wheel. We're stuck on that grind, and we don't actually realize that we can be our own worst enemies. And so sometimes it's realizing where we're not doing what we know we should be doing. That's obviously one of the first main awareness points. And the rest of it just all flows from there. I'm hoping that some of those things stuck, and I'd love to know what's resonating with people in the chats too, because there's a lot that I did try to pack in there because I wanted to actually get people's brains to overload, and I was hoping that they weren't going to explode and I'd have to shut down their cameras. So
I think lots of comments actually in the chat about things you were saying were just resonating with people. There's a plethora of yeses here. Tell us more actually, Richard, about the podcast, because that's obviously a must listen. If that's going, if you're needing a regular dose of living life on your own terms, tell us more the kind of guests that you're looking for and topics you're going to cover.
Absolutely. I'm looking for guests of all from anywhere and everything. It's about how people have actually managed to get life on their own terms. It's very much about how they've actually made that transition towards loot. And we've all encountered wobbles. We've all had different challenges thrown at us. We've all got different stories. And everybody's stories are just fascinating. So the podcast is by far not about me. I just happen to be there interviewing these great people. I've got all sorts of different people on there already lined up, from sort of TV personalities to people that you've never actually heard of, but they've got equally amazing stories, and it's just incredible. So I'm just very much looking forward to putting out our weekly podcast to basically interview people. So it's going to stream to LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. There you go. And then we're going to be editing that to put out onto Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts with the actual abbreviated, abridged version. So it's a little bit tighter and a little bit more geared up for the podcast audience. So once we get launched, then I'm definitely looking forward to actually getting more and more and more traction with it. And I'm looking for some great guests. If you know anybody who you think would be a great guest, and I also prefer entertainment to education, even though I've just bombarded you with all this stuff. And so the more entertaining it is, the better. And I just love having great interview guests.
Well, I think there's a real eclectic mix of people. I'm sure there are people here that would love to be on your podcast, and of course that comes to
please do
too. And also, it really just ties in before we get to finish. As we were saying to Rolly earlier about, we haven't picked people, people have chosen the time slots, but the theme of the stories, you of course have your own personal story too, which I have heard, and I'm sure you've shared with other people too. But there's such a theme here about living your life, being your authentic self, and doing what pleases you. And things are not linear, but if we stay the course and we realize that we're going to have hurdles and crossroads and challenges. I just love that. I laughed so much, actually. I was so busy laughing. So I hope our lovely American friends all understood. There was so much Britishisms in there, but, Steve, I don't know how to follow that.
Puzzle.
It's all those lovely words, quintessentially beautiful British words as well. So there we go. DJs would love to be on your podcast. Do reach out to Richard.
Excellent. Definitely.
Podcast, and you'll probably get a bonus dog along the way as well. So
probably. Well, the one I'm looking after is asleep on the chair over there right now. So I'll let sleeping dogs lie.
Oh, I thought the dog was doing the slideshow for you, but
I'll train her for next time.
Oh, a gazillion thank yous to you. Thank you. Informative. Thank you. We all laughed. Lots of yeses in the chat. We're resonated with everything you've said. Oh, Wendy Corner has a quick question. Go ahead, Ms. Corner.
Thank you. Excuse me, Richard. What time are you, if you're broadcasting your podcasts live, what time do they go out? I'm just thinking for those of us who are not UK based.
I haven't actually set a time yet, but it could be that there might be the odd recorded one that we'll put out. But the reason we're putting it out live is so that we actually get live chat interactions and can actually sort of join that in. That may not always be possible. And certainly if I'm away on holiday or remotely looking after dogs in deepest, darkest Norway or some other location, then I might well not have as good an internet connection. So some of them I might end up stacking up as well.
Got it. Got it.
Have a
Thank
have
you.
a natter with each other. Have a
Oh, yeah,
Definitely.
we're already getting a calendar date together.
Well, there
We
you
are.
are. New best friends already.